three women from Chicago, invited to LA party, lose life on arrival. This is Ayanna Hutton, a 33-year-old aspiring rapper and music promoter from the streets of Chicago, Illinois. Nina Davis, a 29-year-old mother who called the Chicago suburbs home. And this is Destiny Sims, a 26-year-old mother of three children who, despite recently relocating to Buckeye, Arizona, still carried Chicago deep in her blood. On January 28, 2023, all three of these vibrant young women would be found slumped dead inside a parked vehicle, their bodies riddled with bullets outside a luxury short-term rental property in one of Los Angeles's most affluent neighborhoods. But before I take you through every chilling detail of that horrific night, let me take you back to late January 2023, where a trip meant to celebrate dreams and opportunities in the music industry would transform into an absolute nightmare that nobody could have predicted. According to Los Angeles Police Department investigations and family accounts, the women traveled from the Midwest to Los Angeles in late January 2023, drawn by opportunities in the music industry. Ayanna had been making serious strides in her career. Friends told the Los Angeles Times that Ayanna had started to do well with promoting and getting into the music business, and she saw this Los Angeles trip as a pivotal moment, a chance to network, be seen, and take her aspirations to the next level. She was excited. Her mother would later share with reporters just how enthusiastic Ayanna had been about this opportunity. For Ayanna, this was not just another party. This was a professional stepping stone into an industry where connections mean everything and visibility can change your entire trajectory overnight.
You know you're authentically anointed when people who got more than you don't like you. And you're trying to figure out why you attacking me when I ain't got nothing. I hope y'all tear up this church. God said, if they hate you at this level, what they gonna do when I elevate you to a whole nother place? This is just the beginning.
Destiny Sims shared similar dreams and similar hunger. Despite the demands of raising three children and having recently relocated to Arizona, she had never let go of her Chicago roots or her musical ambitions. Destiny was described as an up-and-coming artist herself, someone who was actively pursuing her dreams in an industry that demands relentless dedication. Nina Davis, while not directly tied to the music industry in the same way, was there as a supportive friend, someone who wanted to be present for this important moment in her friends' lives. She was described as vibrant and deeply family-oriented, the kind of person who showed up for the people she cared about. The group had secured a luxurious short-term rental property on Ellison Drive in Beverly Crest, an upscale area nestled in the hills above Beverly Hills. The home itself was a stunning property, previously sold in 2019 for over $2 million to a British music manager and partner. It was booked through 365 Hospitality by Brandon Carroll, a Chicago resident who would also become one of the wounded survivors of the attack that was about to unfold. On the night of January 27, 2023, the group decided to enjoy their time in Los Angeles by going bowling. There was anticipation for what the next day might bring in terms of the music event they had traveled so far to support. The group returned to the rental property on Ellison Drive around 2:30 in the morning on January 28th. The streets of Beverly Crest were quiet, peaceful, the kind of silence that exists in wealthy neighborhoods where nothing bad is ever supposed to happen. Ayanna, Nina, and Destiny were sitting inside a parked vehicle outside the home. Perhaps they were talking about the evening, but whatever conversation was happening in those final moments would be cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. At approximately 2:35 in the morning, gunfire suddenly erupted outside the home. The attackers approached under the cover of darkness, and they came prepared for maximum devastation. More than 30 rounds of ammunition were fired at the vehicle where the three women sat. The bullets tore through metal and glass with ruthless efficiency, finding their targets, Ayanna Hutton, Nina Davis, and Destiny Sims, who never stood a chance.
We do want to update you on our breaking news. At least 3 people are dead and 4 others are critical after a mass shooting in Beverly Crest.
It happened at Ellison Drive and RB Drive, and that's where we find KCAL News reporter Lauren Posen. Lauren, what have you learned?
Well, Rachel, we've gotten some more information here. Homicide detectives are going door to door looking to talk to residents, also possibly looking for some security camera video. Behind me here, this is Ellison Drive. This is the crime scene here that police are actively investigating. When we first got here just after 4:30, we saw officers talking to a group of people, interviewing them. We also noticed, I noticed one man was sitting on the ground as well. Now, police tell us that the happened just before 3 o'clock this morning, and they say that 3 of the victims were inside a car when shots were fired outside a home here on Ellison Drive, while 4 others were standing outside. Paramedics rushed them all to nearby hospitals, but 3 people died and 4 people are in critical condition. This, of course, is in the Beverly Crest area. It's an upscale neighborhood off of Benedict Canyon. It's unclear right now if police have a suspect in custody or if they're looking for someone. It's also unclear what led up to these shots being fired. Was there possibly a party here last night, some sort of gathering? Those are all details we're waiting to find out from detectives and police. I was also just told by a homicide detective that walked by us that a public information officer, someone who can speak on this case, is on the way here, hoping to fill in those blanks for us. So hopefully we'll have another update for you in our next half hour. Right now, though, it is pretty quiet out here. This is a quiet neighborhood, and here comes the detectives right now. They're exiting this home here after speaking with the homeowner there. So we will continue to stay out here and gather some more information, and we'll bring that to you again coming up in our next half hour. For now, we will send it back to you in the studio. Back to you.
All right, Lauren, thank you for that update, and we will look forward to your next report.
The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner coroner would officially confirm the identities of all 3 victims the following day. But the carnage did not end with these 3 deaths. 4 other people were wounded in the attack. 2 men suffered critical injuries, including Brandon Carroll, who had booked the property, while 2 others were treated and released. 2 individuals somehow managed to escape completely unharmed, though the psychological trauma of witnessing such brutality would undoubtedly haunt them for the rest of their lives. Inside the home, the party had continued for precious moments, attendees unaware that just outside, their friends were being slaughtered.
The coroner's now identified the 3 women who died in that shooting in Beverly Crest. They're 33-year-old Iana Hutton of Chicago, 29-year-old Nina Davis from Bolingbrook, Illinois, and 26-year-old Destiny Sims of Buckeye, Arizona. 4 other people are still hospitalized, 2 critical after the shooting at the short-term rental property. LAPD investigators are still trying to figure out what happened at the gathering on North Ellison Drive Saturday morning. Witnesses and security video are key to this case.
We now know the names of the 3 victims killed in a shooting in the Beverly Crest area. The 3 women were all in their 20s and 30s. Authorities have identified them as 33-year-old Chicago resident Iana Hutton, 29-year-old Nina Davis from Illinois, and 26-year-old Arizona resident Destiny Sims. KCAL News' Candace Crone has the latest on the search for a suspect.
Crime scene investigators worked late into the evening Saturday, combing this Beverly Crest neighborhood for clues after 7 people were and what police are calling
the evidence at scene. There's casings from, so we can confirm that this was a battle where the victims were.
I drove up the hill and I saw all the cops, and I literally was like, are they filming something? Because I didn't think. And then I saw news and a coroner and police cars all down this entire street. And I knew something bad had happened.
Neighbors reported hearing gunfire around 2:30 a.m. and called police. Officers responded to the 2700 block of Ellison Drive and discovered 3 people inside a car parked in front of the house. The other 4 victims were taken to nearby hospitals with serious injuries. Authorities say the residence where the shooting happened is a short-term rental and that there was a gathering of some sort when fire rang out.
I was shocked and I felt horrible. But I don't feel less safe because that's not typical. It's just shocking because this area has no crime.
Authorities towed several cars, including this Mazda SUV that was pierced with bullets. People who live nearby say they've seen more and more homes in the area turned into rentals. They're hoping incidents like this don't become common.
Up in Benedict Canyon, we're known for major party houses that people rent out major mansions. It's just, yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I'm blown away.
They rent it for as much money as possible, so in, out, I never know who they are. It's not the first time a cop has been called to a rental house.
I reached out to LAPD again, still no description of the suspect or suspects involved in the shooting. Detectives are hoping to find security video that will lead them to the. Reporting in Beverly Crest, Candace Crone, KCAL News.
The immediate question facing investigators was deceptively simple but critically important. Why would anyone target this group and unleash such overwhelming firepower on a vehicle full of young women who, by all accounts, had nothing to do with any criminal activity? Initial reports from the Los Angeles Police Department were cautious, with officials stating they believed the shooting may have started as some kind of dispute. But as detectives began piecing together evidence, interviewing survivors, canvassing the neighborhood for surveillance footage, and diving deep into the backgrounds of everyone present at that rental property that night, a far more disturbing picture began to emerge. The investigation would require massive coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies spanning across several states. The Los Angeles Police Department worked in tandem with authorities in Chicago, New York, and Indiana, following leads, tracking suspects, and building cases brick by brick. What they discovered was chilling. This massacre in Beverly Crest was directly connected to gang violence from Chicago. And the violence that routinely plagued the streets of the Windy City had followed these women all the way to California. Los Angeles Police Department Captain Jonathan Tibbett would eventually hold a press conference where he explicitly stated that the violence occurring in Chicago was having effects across the entire country, impacting other states in ways that demanded immediate attention. This was not just about one isolated incident in Beverly Crest. This was about a pattern of interstate gang violence that was spiraling out of control, reaching into communities that believed they were safe from such brutality. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a connection to another homicide that had occurred weeks earlier. In December 2022, a 30-year-old man named Julian Bynum, who also happened to be from Chicago, was shot multiple times in front of an apartment complex on Simpson Avenue in North Hollywood. Both attacks employed identical ambush-style tactics, with shooters approaching their victims when they were at their most vulnerable and unleashing overwhelming firepower before anyone could react or escape. Then came the breakthrough that would blow the case wide open. The alleged shooters were identified as 28-year-old Darius Sanford, 28-year-old Dejon Tompkins, and 23-year-old Dante Williams, all of them known gang members from Chicago. The arrests would take place across multiple states, demonstrating just how far these suspects had scattered after carrying out their deadly mission in Los Angeles. The suspects were ultimately arrested in New York City, Chicago, and Indiana, requiring extraordinary cooperation between law enforcement agencies across the country. Each arrest brought investigators one step closer to understanding the full scope of what had happened that night in Beverly Crest, and more importantly, why it had happened at all.
Several arrests have been made in an ambush-style in Beverly Crest. 3 women were down in January while sitting in a car outside a rented home, and police believe there is a connection to another in North Hollywood.
KTLA's Rachel Benetoff has new information about the arrests.
Hi, good evening. Police say they can't talk about the motive in the shootings, but say that they're associated with events that happened in Chicago. Both the victims and the suspects were originally from the Chicago area. The of 3 women in a January attack in Beverly Crest and a man in North Hollywood in December were all perpetrated by gang members from Chicago. That's what the Los Angeles Police Department said during a press conference led by Captain Jonathan Tibbett.
One thing that can be said is that the violence that occurs in Chicago today is having an effect on all of us, and we've become aware that it's affecting other states as well.
The alleged shooters have been identified as 28-year-old Darius Sanford, 28-year-old Dejon Tompkins, Tompkins and 23-year-old Dante Williams. The investigation involved various law enforcement agencies as the suspects were arrested in different locations, including New York City, Chicago, and Indiana.
The collaboration and cooperation between law enforcement agencies across the country is crucial in ensuring that those responsible for such brazen acts of violence are brought to justice.
The Beverly Crest victims are 33-year-old Ayanna Hutton, 29-year-old Nina Davis, and 26-year-old Destiny Sims, all said to be from the Chicago area as well. Police say they were unintended targets. They were killed while sitting in a car outside of a short-term rental property on Ellison Drive in the early morning hours of January 28th. Investigators say a group of people who grew up together in Chicago were visiting Los Angeles supporting a rapper. The group came back from a night of bowling when the suspects fired more than 30 rounds. 6 other people were injured that night.
On the ADW shooting.
Police believe at least one of the suspects, Dejon Tompkins, is also connected to the December of 30-year-old Julian Bynum, who also happens to be from Chicago. He was shot multiple times in front of an apartment complex on Simpson Avenue in North Hollywood.
In both of these cases, the suspects use ambush-style tactics on their unsuspecting victims.
The LA County District Attorney's Office says the 3 men face gun enhancements and special circumstance allegations. It says the circumstances in this case are so exceptional that a deviation from the standard policy is not only reasonable, but necessary. And all 3 men are now awaiting extradition back here to LA, facing multiple attempted and assault charges. The DA's office says it decided to file the enhancement because of the tremendous loss of life and the harm allegedly caused by these individuals. Reporting downtown, I'm Rachel Menitoff, KTLA 5 News.
Captain Tibbett emphasized during the press conference that collaboration and cooperation between law enforcement agencies across the country was absolutely crucial. Without this unprecedented level of coordination, these suspects might have remained free, potentially to kill again, to spread more violence, to destroy more lives. But here is where the story takes an even more disturbing turn. Police revealed that Ayanna, Nena, and Destiny were actually unintended targets. They died because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and because of gang rivalries they had nothing to do with. According to investigators, a group of people who had grown up together in Chicago were visiting Los Angeles to support a rapper. This group included both the victims and presumably others who were connected to Chicago's gang culture in ways that Ayanna, Nena, and Destiny were not. When the group returned from their bowling outing that night, the suspects were waiting, and when they opened fire with more than 30 rounds, they did not care who they hit. This was not going to be treated as just another gang shooting. This was going to be prosecuted with the full weight and fury of the justice system, sending a clear message that bringing Chicago's gang violence to Los Angeles would result in the harshest possible consequences. The legal process would be lengthy and complex, requiring coordination between multiple jurisdictions and navigating the complicated waters of interstate extradition law. But prosecutors were determined, and families of the victims were watching closely, demanding that justice be served for Ayanna, Nena, and Destiny.
The DA's office says it decided to file the enhancement because of the tremendous loss of life and the harm allegedly caused by these individuals.
The aftermath of the shooting extended beyond just the criminal investigation. The entire Beverly Crest community was reeling, grappling with questions about safety, about short-term rentals, about how something so horrific could happen in their exclusive, supposedly secure neighborhood. Residents demanded answers. They demanded action. They demanded that something be done to prevent such tragedies from ever happening again.
The anger and fear in the community were palpable. These were people who had paid millions of dollars to live in what they believed was one of the safest neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and suddenly they were waking up to the sound of machine gunfire in the middle of the night. One frustrated resident captured the growing tension when they stated on camera. This sentiment echoed throughout the neighborhood, revealing a pattern of problems with short-term rentals that had been building for years but had never resulted in tragedy of this magnitude. Bill Curtis, a longtime resident who had lived in the Beverly Hills post office neighborhood for over 50 years, spoke about the property where the shooting occurred.
He explained that the owners of the house had relocated to Miami, and while residents initially did not know if the property had been sold, they discovered in the days following the shooting that it was actually being operated as a one-year rental, with whoever had rented it for that year apparently subletting it out for short-term stays.
The neighbors in Beverly Crest are demanding change after 7 people were shot over the weekend at a short-term rental home. 3 women were just outside the house. Those who live nearby are saddened by this tragedy, but they're also calling on the city to impose stricter regulations. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell is live in Beverly Crest with more on these controversial properties. Josh?
And David, we have learned that there have been homicide investigations at 3 short-term rentals in the Benedict Canyon area just over the past 2.5 years. Residents are demanding that the city of LA further regulate the short-term rental market. Early Saturday morning, residents of this quiet Beverly Crest neighborhood located up Benedict Canyon were awakened by what they say sounded like machine gun fire. 7 people were shot, 3 outside this short-term rental on Ellison Drive.
It makes me very sad and scared, and I have a really uncomfortable feeling being in the neighborhood. This morning at 10 a.m., I didn't know if I should walk the dog or not.
Now, residents are demanding the city of Los Angeles further regulate short-term rentals.
I'm not surprised. Every time there's a rental with people we don't know, the cops get called. It's not the first time.
The Benedict Canyon Homeowners Association says this was the 3rd time homicides have occurred at short-term rentals in Benedict Canyon in the past 2.5 years. Bill Curtis has lived in what he calls the Beverly Hills Post Office neighborhood for over 50 years.
The owners of the house relocated to Miami. We didn't know if they sold it or not. However, we found out in the last couple of days that it was a 1-year rental, and we believe whoever had rented it for a year was letting it out. It's a problem because you don't know who your neighbors are going to be for 2 days.
The 3 people were in a vehicle outside the home and have been identified as Destiny Sims from Buckeye, Arizona, Nina Davis from Chicago, and Ayanna Hudden, pictured here, also from Chicago. Ayanna Hudden's mother telling our sister station in Chicago, WLS, that her daughter was visiting Los Angeles with her best friend Nina Davis to attend an album release party for a rapper. Ayanna Hudden was an up-and-coming rap artist herself, according to her mom, and was excited to make the trip.
It's sad the girls were my age in that car. Like, I could have been at that party too. It's so sad and horrible.
And also disturbing residents who live here. There was a report of a burglary just yesterday at this same short-term rental. Residents tell me they saw 4 suspects leaving the home wearing ski masks. When the LAPD arrived, they could not locate those suspects, but the LAPD told me that they are continuing to look into the incident. Right now, they are looking at it as a trespassing incident.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
But the tragedy did not end with the shooting itself. Hours after police had cleared the crime scene and removed the bodies of Ayanna, Nina, and Destiny, something deeply disturbing occurred. At 10:15 in the morning on the same day, LAPD responded to reports of a burglary at the same property where the shooting had taken place. The owner of the property declined to press charges, and police eventually categorized the incident as trespassing rather than burglary. But the optics were terrible. People returning to a crime scene where 3 women had just been murdered hours earlier, brazenly retrieving belongings while wearing masks, seemingly showing no concern or respect for what had just transpired at that location. The families of the victims were left to grapple with unimaginable grief. Ayanna Hutton's mother spoke to their sister station in Chicago, WLS, explaining that her daughter had been visiting Los Angeles with her best friend Nina Davis to attend an album release party for a rapper. She described how excited Ayanna had been about the trip, how she saw it as an important step in her music career. The impact rippled through multiple communities. Young people in Beverly Crest who had never experienced such violence firsthand were traumatized. One young woman captured the horror felt by an entire generation when she said, "It's sad, the girls were my age in that car, like I could have been at that party too. It's so sad and horrible." But this massacre in Beverly Crest was not happening in a vacuum. It was part of a deeply disturbing pattern of senseless party shootings that have plagued American communities. To further understand the horror of what happened to Ayanna, Nina, and Destiny, we need to look at another party massacre that occurred just 4 years earlier, one that shares chilling similarities, despite happening in a completely different city under completely different circumstances. On May 25, 2019, in Detroit, Michigan, another house party would become the scene of unspeakable carnage. 3 young people, 21-year-old Alunte Davis, 20-year-old Timothy Blanchard, and 20-year-old Paris Cameron, were gunned down at a party on Devonshire Street in what prosecutors would describe as one of the most cold-blooded killings the city had ever witnessed. 2 others were wounded in the attack. What made this case even more horrifying was the motive. The shooter, 19-year-old Devin Robinson, allegedly opened fire to eliminate witnesses who knew about his sexual encounters with men, as he was desperate to maintain his image as a straight man. Alunte Davis was described by his sister as full of life, silly and helpful, someone who brought joy to everyone around him. Timothy Blanchard, known as Miami to his friends, was remembered as fun-loving, kind, and deeply family-oriented, especially close to his brother. Paris Cameron was a transgender woman who had come out as gay at 13 years old and had identified as trans a year prior to her death. She was known for her friendliness, her pride in who she was, and her generous spirit as an organ donor. These were 3 vibrant young people who, like Ayanna, Nina, and Destiny, were simply trying to enjoy themselves at a party with friends. The Detroit massacre unfolded with the same kind of sudden, explosive violence that would later characterize the Beverly Crest shooting. Robinson fired over 20 shots into the group, killing 3 and wounding 2 others who survived by hiding or receiving emergency aid. The survivors were traumatized, forever changed by witnessing their friends being slaughtered right in front of them. Just like in Beverly Crest, the attack happened at a residential party where people had gathered to celebrate, to connect, to enjoy the simple pleasure of being young and alive. What makes both cases so profoundly disturbing is the complete senselessness of the violence. In Detroit, prosecutors theorized that Robinson's motive was rooted in self-hatred and fear of exposure. After intimate encounters and jokes about his sexuality, he snapped, aiming to eliminate anyone who could reveal his secret. In Beverly Crest, Ayanna, Nina, and Destiny were killed because of gang rivalries they had absolutely nothing to do with. In both cases, innocent people died not because of anything they did, but because of violence rooted in someone else's demons, someone else's conflicts, someone else's inability to resolve problems without resorting to murder. As of today, there have been no major updates regarding the trial of Darius Stanford, Dejon Tompkins, and Dante Williams. The legal process moves slowly, especially in complex cases involving multiple defendants, interstate coordination, and special circumstance allegations. Families continue to wait for their day in court, for the opportunity to see justice served, for the chance to look these 3 men in the eyes and demand answers for why their loved ones had to die. What do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.